When I click on these, it tells you in the status line what you can do with these. Okay? For example, this is a note. If I take the note and drop it right here, I now have a little post-it note where I can type something else. Let's say drag in this window some text. And I can order the parts or whatever and drag stuff in here for each of those. Number 3, 4, 5, dash 6, 7, M. Okay? Now, we have arrows. Notice I have the thing I'm dragging, I drag into this window. It shows up in this one and a little image up here. I can move it around in this window. I can shift drag it in this window. I have lines. Another line. Put them together. It's a way you can create lines. So you can do a timeline type of thing, and just even put a dot, which shows up actually in all the windows. You can type some text. Something like that. So here you have your timeline. Many uses for this. What's nice about it is that you can use it on a projection system and be able to show something that you could not show in front of a large audience. And actually play around with it. Finally, there's another map. See, we saw this one. Okay, here we have the map that we saw before. But let's take a look. We have little date items. Here, type in. This is where Software Garden is. And you'll see a little dot that goes on the big map at the same place. A red dot to correspond to it, and if I drag in a purple one and put out in Worcester here, you can see there's a purple dot, and we also have blue ones. And there's a place to type text. We can put one down at the end of the cape. You see all the little dots starting to come together. So you can actually do some of the same things. Let's say here's our main headquarters. And then I can put more detailed information, such as the telephone numbers. Get anywhere in the country. When we open up our office out in the West Coast, office in the No Coast, in the Windy City, all sorts of places. We can handle it. You can drop anywhere, but you should drop in the window that's sort of appropriate for it. The last map. A little different take on the same thing. Here's us. You can change the labels that are on here, so instead of saying item 1, 2, and 3, this is something that you can change. What type of defaults are there? You can change all that stuff. That ends it for all the samples. Now it's time to learn how to use the product, so we're going to go into the tutorial. Okay, this is a tutorial that will show you how to put together an application. It's very similar to the tutorial that you'll find written in the developer's manual with a little extra stuff because it's easier to add a lot of extra little details on the video, but you can follow along later without the video, doing it just on paper. It's a very simple application. It's an aerial view of an airport terminal. This actually is the first application that I did myself to try out the concept for OverAll, and I've recreated it here for you to try. Now the illustrations were done by me, not by an artist. Micah, who did the rest, Micah Zimring did the rest of the stuff you've seen, didn't do this. I want to emphasize that you can create these things without being a great graphic artist, at least to start, or a great graphic designer. You can then have yourself or others create images for you to turn it into something that's wonderful and fun and something that's gorgeous. Let's start by running Paintbrush. And go down to OverAll and go look at Tutorial. And we have a few different bitmaps. Here's term 1. It's a freehand drawing of an airport terminal. There's A, there's B, there's C and D. This is, you drive in here, and those of you who have been in all sorts of airports, it looks like a lot of them. 2, same type of thing. It's but more detailed. Actually, this one was drawn first. I drew it, I think, in Paintbrush, and then took another program and made it 1/4 the size, and then touched it up a little bit. That's how we got term 1. Term 2 came from that. Then I added the words, so they're different in the two of them. Here it has the word terminal instead of just the letter A, and it has TWA, United, USA, or whatever. Term 3 is just an enlargement of that. I just turned it into black and white using, I think it was Photo Styler, and enlarged it and got an image like this. You can put your own stuff on it, which we'll actually do later on. Finally, a little number sign. That was done by typing in text mode and then selecting it and doing a copy to be able to save it. It gives you a little icon, and if we zoom in on it, you can see it has white and purple. Okay. Here we have OverAll. I can click on this to make it go away, or I can go start working with the product. Let's create a new blank. Here you see window 1, window 2, and window 3. We'll call up Edit, and here we have all sorts of things you can do. Let's go into Design and Design Windows. And we want to load into window 1 an image. Which image? Oops. Tutorials, term 1. And we press load. It's now compressing it, and it puts it up there. Now we'll hit tab 2, browse, load it. It's being compressed, and it's now here. Now, let's take term 3, but we're not going to load it. First thing we're going to do is going to go to this size and say, I'd like to enlarge it twice. Let's make it twice as big than it really is. Okay? And normally we had it as is. It just took whatever size the image was. We're going to do load as monochrome, so that OverAll is going to make the stretched image that it creates be monochrome instead of the normal color that it would be. This will save a lot of memory. Finally, we're going to click on the load button. It's now bringing it in, doing the stretch, and now it's compressing it. There we go. And you see that it's 2398 by 1598 is how big it is. And if we press done, we now have 3 images. We drag around in here, you can see that's all it took to create an overall application. Then I could go and save it. Now, let's drag some data items. Let's go over here. Terminal B, and here, US Air. Now I'll go to drag 1. It's pad 1. Take it, and it says at the bottom, drag and drop to create a new item. And I'll drop it right here. Okay, now I've created one. And you can see it here in this window as a check with a red rectangle around it. And if we look at the next, we see a plus with just the corners, red corners of a rectangle around it. And in window 1, there's just a dot, all at the same relative location. Now, zoom out just a little more. Okay. If I start typing something, I'm going to write down frequent flyer. You see that the label appears right next to the check. Now if I press the Tab key, notice what happened was that the rectangle moved from over here to over here. Now I can type here just FF. And I can actually tab around, and it goes between all the different windows. And I can type in whichever window that the data item is showing. Okay? If I hit Enter, I now have, up here, I have a typing cursor. So I can type in something like frequent flyer number 987654321. Now if I press Escape, I'm out. I can also just click somewhere else to bring it back here. I can click here to start typing here. Let's say really there was a 0 before it. Go back out here. Now hit Escape again. Notice that there are no more red rectangles because it's not selected. Not selected, no data. If I click on it again, it's selected again, and I get the information. And you see it in all the windows where it's visible. Now if I click on it, I can move it around and move it somewhere else. If you saw in the beginning of the tape, you can move it just about anywhere. Now if I click on it with the right mouse button, it's now selected, and it brings up the Item Properties dialog. It's a tab dialog, just like that other one that we saw. And you can see the different icons. If I would like to get more information, I can always hit F1 to get help. So if I press F1, up comes help, and there's the Item Properties dialog box, help. There's lots of help. And you can see label, there's different fonts. I can, for example, double click here, changing the font to a larger font. Right mouse click, double click there, back to the smaller font. If I look at the text, let's say look at this label, I can go over here, hit an enter. Do it as 2 lines. So you can make all sorts of changes. Now, I have this piece of data over here. I could be anywhere. Click, click, click. I've got that information. Large amount of space. Get to any piece of information in just a few clicks. Very smoothly. And I know where I came from, where I'm going. Nice and smooth. Now let's change the drag pads. We're going to customize them. Okay? We're going to go down here, and I'm going to click the right mouse button on the second pad. And it brings up this big dialog box, the drag pad setup dialog box. Let's go to Palette, click on it, and change it to say image shown on each pad. Okay? Done. And then let's do done again. Now we see the image that is being shown here. The image that's being shown actually, the check, it says here image shown when dragging is a check. Now we're going to press load icon. And here's where we can load the different icons. Let's browse. Take terminum. Let's load it in. And there's our purple number sign. It's been loaded as icon 1. There are a lot of other icons which we could load up. They have default file names, but we also have 9 drag icons that you can use that can be used to have something different while you're dragging than the ones that you can see at the data item. Now we'll go up here and make it say same as window 3. Whatever is in window 3, that's the image we're going to show when dragging. The image on the pad, same as window 3. Now here, this is the initial state of the items created by the drag pad. When I drag off of this, what type of item should I create? Well, we have a dot in window 1. Plus in here, well, let's make it font 1, the small font. And here, let's make it be icon 1, which, since it's the same as window 3, you can see that it shows the image there. And we'll also use the small font. We could have a label as an initial label, make it read-only so you can't move it once you've dropped an initial text. You can put all sorts of stuff. Okay, now we'll press done. Now, plus a check on this one and a number sign on this one. We go over here. I can put a number right down like that. Let's put in, let's say their telephone number. Let's see, 800 428 dash. Now you have that information, quickly available. All sorts of information can be put there. Now, that's the end of the written tutorial. We've shown you all sorts of stuff. At this point, I want to show you some extra stuff that's not covered by the written tutorial. Let's say you'd like to be able to lay these out a little differently. Well, one thing you could do is go into Design, bring up the Windows Setup dialog, and change the top left position, the top and the left position, the width. You can change the windows to be different sizes. You can load a background. You can load an image into the background, and it's behind all the other windows. But another way of doing that is to go into layout mode. Control L will do the same. Now each of the windows, there's the text box up here, there's the window 1, window 2, window 3, the little numbers in the upper left corners to let you know, or letters to let you know what it is. You can now move them drag them around, and change the size. Let's say you like this one to be a little smaller and this one to be a little bigger. You want to move this over because you're going to put some logo over there maybe, or let's put less information here. I like more information. You can do that, and then if you want to fine-tune it, you can then always go back here and fine-tune it to make things exactly next to each other or whatever by adjusting the top left and stuff like that. So that's a thing that you can do. In addition to the text box, there's also an image box. That's how we get the bitmap image that you saw in the Fenway example. You can work with that. That's all explained in the online help, or you can look at the sample applications. You can delete items, delete all your items. You can find an item based on the text within it. So let's say you want to be able to find out something with QU in it. Find next. There's one. That's it. There's no others. So you can use it to find a particular item and it puts it on the screen. You can bring to front and send to back because these items can be in front of something or behind something. So that in this case, if you look at it, you can see that this is in front, but if and it selects always the one that's most in front, I can do a Control B, for example, and put it behind, or Control F and put it in front. You can sort of see it going in front and back. This is important for certain types of date items. You can change the colors and the lines. If let's say you want the zoom rectangle, instead of being narrow, you'd like it to be wide, and you'd like it to be a different color. Let's make it, let's say it's green. It's now a wider green. You can change that with colors, all sorts of different things that you can change the colors for, the background colors of stuff, etc. Drag pad you saw, which is brought up by right-clicking on the drag pad you care about, or you can use this command right here. Drag pads can be either floating in a palette like this or fixed on the background. You can read the help about the drag pad palette setup. Icons to load, you saw that. Fonts, you can change which font is used for a variety of things. Font 1, 2, and 3 are settable. The text box, tutorial, and the pad labels are all settable. Their preferences. These you should look at. You can allow the user to move and modify items, or you can turn that off. You can allow them to create new items or not. Turn it off. Automatically select an item after it's created. Sometimes you don't want to do it. Turn it off. Show a flag on items with non-blank text window. If the text window, if the text box has something in it, then it'll put a plus sign at the end of the data item on the windows. Do you want to set the window size of the application and its position on the screen when you load it to the same ones that it was when it was last saved? Do you want it to always set the always on top and status bar settings on load? You may want to do that. That's what we did, for example, on the notes application, to be able to have it come up at the same place on the screen and have it in front of. You can enable the tutorial command, which we're going to do here. You can change the speed setting. This has to do with the smooth panning around. Right now it's automatic. You can set it explicitly. If, for example, I set it explicitly and set it to a 0, now when I move around, I don't get the intermediate positions. It just jumps, and it's much less smooth. You have your pick. And you can show a notice when the file is loaded. There's the title and there's the text on it if you want to have your own startup display, which comes up. Let's do a tutorial, just quickly to show you how to create the tutorials. We go up, do Edit, Design, Tutorial, and here we have a tutorial window. You can move it around. You put a heading up here, so let's put here 1, and you can put text underneath it, and you have this this call out line that you can hide by clicking on here. You can hide the box if you want, clicking on here, or you can hide them. So here we have 1, do another one. We can name them if you feel like it. Let's move this around so things look a little differently. Point this somewhere else and write 2. Now if I run the tutorial, it goes back to where it was. I can do next and previous. That's all it takes to create a tutorial. Now if I do a done, go to help, tutorial, I'm into the tutorial, hit enter for next, previous, next, previous. You can use that for status information and tutorial information, telling people what changes, or even just for yourself to leave you notes about why you did certain things. That's it for this tape. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it helpful. And for the rest of the information, look in the online help, look at the developer's manual, and look at the sample applications. I hope you enjoy using the product. Thanks very much.